Weil, author of the 4th edition of Organizing Successful Tournaments. And we're going to take you through several different types of organizing tournaments. The one we're going to start with is single elimination. One of the things that I like to do when I'm in different places and tournaments is to just see how effective the tournament is that they have. So let's begin with this one. I was at one tournament where this was the way the tournament was laid out. Game 1, A1 plays B2, Game 2, B1 plays C2, Game 3, C1 plays A2, Game 4, the winner of these games, and Game 5, the winner of these games, and so on. Visually, it's not very helpful because we're trying to figure out who plays who, where, when, and so on. So it's better to lay it out in a graphic format. So I've done that for them. So now I know if I'm C2, I play here. If I beat B1, I would play the winner of this game. So visually, it's a lot easier than this one here. But now that we can see it visually, I guess the question is, are there any problems? And there are some problems with this one because, as you can see, B2, for example, if we assume that A1 is the strongest seed, B1 is the second strongest, C1 is the third strongest, A2 would be fourth, B2 would be fifth, and C2 would be sixth, then actually we have the fifth seed playing the first seed in this game here. And that shouldn't really happen. So if we were to put it out, let me just backtrack, sorry. This is also, there should actually be brackets here too, like this. Explain that in a moment. So basically the way it works, the way they've laid it out is A1 plays B2. That's still incorrect, but it's at least laid out visually correctly. And then B1 playing C2, C1 playing A2. Visually this would be the correct, and we'll talk about why we make it 8 instead of 6 as it was in the previous one. So here's the sample. Again, A1 playing B2, both of them getting buys. But this is how it should be. So A1 advances, but before B2 plays A1, they're going to play one other game. So they're playing C2. And then B1, the second seed, is getting a bye. Over here, B1, the second seed, is playing a game. So they should also be getting a bye because in this case there are 6 teams, so the top 2 should be getting a bye. So C1 plays A2, C2 plays B2. The other thing you'll notice is that there's an A and a C and a B here, and an A and a B and a C here, so we've separated out the different pools. Let's talk a little bit about buys, because we talked that through. In the initial round, it's always calculated to the next perfect power of 2. So in our case, we had 6 teams, so we would have a bracket with 8, and 2 teams would have a bye. 4 would not be big enough, 16 would be too large. But if we had, let's say, 11 entries, then it's too large for 8, so it would be a draw of 16 is what it would look like. If there was 11 entries, 5 of them would get a bye. If there was 13 entries, 16 minus 13 is 3. 3 teams would get a bye. Who gets the bye? Well, the lower caliber seeds compete with each other first. So we want to make sure that they compete and they're not eliminated by an unbalanced game playing a very strong team. The higher caliber seeds compete later on, they would get a bye earlier. This also means that all the teams, lower seeds, higher seeds, will play roughly the same amount of games. So therefore, how the schedule should have looked is A1 gets the bye, B1 gets the bye. So those are our top 2 seeds. It's an 8 bracket, 6 teams, 2 byes. And then C2 and B2 compete, and C1 and A2 compete. So they get one game here, and then they would play A1, the winner of those two. The winner of these ones plays B1. Presumably B1 will win, and will play one game, two game. A1 will play one game, two game. In the other example, if I were to go back, B1 is playing one game, two game, three games. So they're getting an extra game, which maybe is desirable because they want to play more, but it's undesirable because they'll be more fatigued by the time they get to the championship game. So ideally, that's how we want to structure it. Seeding, let's talk a little bit about that. If you were to look at this for a little longer, the question would be, what were the problems with the seeding in this particular draw? You can see it pretty quickly. As we just said, seed 1 plays here, they play here, they play here. So they ended up playing 3 games, while the top seed only played 2 games. So they're going to be less fatigued by the time they get to this final game here. So that was incorrect. The other thing that is incorrect here is that seed 6 is going to end up playing seed 2. Bit of a mismatch there. Seed 1 plays seed 4, and actually here they played seed 3. So they're playing a strong team there, they're playing a strong team here, they're playing a strong team here. So they've had 3 games where they had to really push hard, whereas seed 2 probably could have rested even their strongest players and only used their strongest players in the final game. So it would have a significant advantage over the second seed. So we wouldn't want that to happen. And then the other issue here is, and we'll talk about that in a minute, these numbers at this level, so you have 2 and 1 together, so 1 and 2 adds up to 3. So that's how it should be. At the next level, we have 4 teams, so it should be 4 plus 1 is 5. So 1 playing 4 is correct, because 4 plus 1 is 5, but 2 playing 6 is 8. That tells you that it's wrong. So 2 should be playing 5 minus 2 is 3, so they should be playing the 3rd seed instead of the 6th seed if we were to get it right. And then to push it back even further, we've got 8 teams here, so it should be 8 plus 1 is 9. So 1 playing 3 is too close. That's only 4, and it should be 9. 5 playing 4 equals 9, so that's correct. So 5 and 4 should play each other at this level. Seed 6 and 7 is 13. So that also tells you that that is incorrect, because it should equal 9. Basic principles, though, for seeding is that the top teams are in the finals, and then you should be able to work your way back. So if I were to go here, 1 and 2 would play each other, then it should be 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 should play 4, and 2 should play 3. And then if you were to push it back further, we can make that work there as well. It should also be equally difficult to advance. So those seeds that are close to each other should decide who is going to advance. And if there's going to be a slight advantage, we're going to have a slight advantage to the higher seeds. So if we go back again here, so 4 and 5 are close together, so that's great. They can decide who actually is the 4th seed. At that particular day, it might be seed 5. And so if they win, then they're the ones that determine it, not determine structure. In this case, we're probably going to eliminate team 3 too early because they should have been in this line here. So advantage seeding, there's equitable seeding and advantage seeding. In equitable seeding, we push this through all the way so that it's equal all the way through. In advantage seeding, the final 3 is going to add up to 3, the final 4 is going to add up to 5, the final 8 is going to add up to 9, as we indicated earlier. And then the 16 should add up to 17. So again, just to go back here, this is 8 plus 1, so that should be 9. At this level, it should be 4 plus 1 equals 5. So that's what these numbers are referring to. So seeding done properly with our earlier example, 1 gets a bye, and 2 gets a bye. 3 and 6 play, 5 and 4, 5 plus 4 is 9, 3 plus 6 is 9. 2 then plays 3, because 3 is going to presumably win this one, so it'll be 5, and 1 plays 4, that's going to be 5. The beauty of this one here is, who actually is the second place team? Well, 2 and 3 should compete to figure that out. If 2 played 4 and 1 played 3, then we're probably eliminating 3 and 4. But by having 3 play 2 and 4 play 1, we're giving a slight advantage to number 1, and 2 and 3 are going to play each other because they're right beside each other to determine who actually is the second best team on that day. In terms of players' teams that are eliminated, the 5th seed would be eliminated here. The 6th one would be eliminated at that level. In equitable seeding, the final 4 is going to be the same. But when we get back a level, then we're going to make sure that it's equally hard for all teams to advance. So with 7 entries, 3 is going to play 7, which is a difference of 4. 2 is going to play 6, which is also a difference of 4. So for 3 and 2 to advance, they would play teams that are equally distant from them. So that would be equitable seeding, where we keep the difference the same for each of the teams. In advantage seeding, it would be 3 versus 6, which is a difference of 3, 2 versus 7, which is a difference of 5. So it's easier for 2, for the second seed. So we're trying to, with the advantage seeding, we're trying to make sure that it's equally difficult for each team to advance. In advantage seeding, which is the more common one, we're giving a slight advantage to the stronger seeds. So an advantage of advantage seeding is that it's equally difficult, but some might argue it's not as desirable then to be a stronger seed because you're going to play someone that's maybe slightly better. Equitable seeding is certainly the more common one, and it gives a slight advantage to the higher seeds. So we're not done quite then, having done our seeding and determined our seeding and our buys. We also need to number the games, and that should be roughly equitable for all. If there's going to be a slight advantage, we'll give it to a higher seed, and we need to make sure that the higher seeds have a bit more rest, a certainly equal amount, and that they're beaten by skill, not fatigue, because of the schedule. So again, if we were to go back to an earlier schedule, where it was done improperly, like here, for example, seed 1 plays, seed 2, easy game, and then plays again. So seed 1 is going to be just much more fatigued by the time they get to that particular stage. So now in terms of location, is also a question that we need to deal with. My apologies for the very fine print here, but we'll zoom in and we'll help you see it just a little bit clearer. So here we have 1 playing 6. There's 8 entries. So 1 is playing 6, so that's 7. 5 playing 4 is 9. 3 playing 8 is 9. 7 playing 2 is 9. Sorry, this is 8 plus 3 is 11. So we're using the advantage seeding here. So in the first game, so we got game 1, game 1. Get it by myself here. So game 1. This is wrong. Stop for a minute. So in terms of the locations, sorry for the little mix up there, but we'll get to that when we look at the final schedule. the closest games should be on the best locations. So if we had 8 teams, when 5 and 4 are playing, let's give them a really good location so that they can, that the location sort of won't determine the outcome, but that the competition will. If one is playing 8, one is going to win, sort of regardless of the location. Now sometimes you might say, well, locations don't make that much of a difference. Often they don't, but sometimes they do. Imagine a soccer tournament where we're using a professional stadium for one of the games, we're using a high school field for another game, and we're using an all-weather gravel field at an elementary school for a third game. We would want those closest matches between 4 and 5 played at that professional game, not on the gravel pitch, so people don't blame the location for the outcome of the game. So if other things being similar, the higher seed will get the better location. So if there's 2 teams that are quite close, we'll get a little bit of advantage to the higher seed. If entries are similar, a higher seed may get a slightly better location if subsequent games are also slightly disadvantaged. That entry, we'll take a look at that in a moment. And then the home game will identify for the higher seed. So in a game like baseball, for example, where home field advantage is important because it gives you last bats, that would make a difference there. So in this particular case, we have 5 entries, so there's only 1 game initially, so that's going to be at location 1. Then we have 1 playing 4, 3 playing 2, so we'll give the best location to this game rather than this one, because 1 and 4 are further apart, 2 and 3 are closer together. And so this is going to be on location 1. And then obviously the final game would also be on location 1. So this is an example. Close game, only game being played, put them on the best field. We're using 2 fields here. The ones that are closest are going to get the best field. And the ones that are further apart, 1 playing 4, being 3 apart, will play on the second best field. Well, you could try it yourself. And it'll end up looking like this one, and we'll show you that in a moment. But just as a quick review, single elimination, the basic premise is that if you're eliminated in 1 game, you're eliminated. So it's a single elimination tournament, 1 elimination, you're out. The number of games is n-1. So if we had 8 teams, it would be 8 minus 1 would be 7 games. To implement it, you could use the book and photocopy the draw sheets, see the entries, schedule the games, or you could just simply use the software. Let me talk a little bit about the software. And well, let me just finish this off first. Sorry. Advantages of single elimination is that it's easy, many entries, few games. Disadvantage is that 1 game you lose, you're out. Seeding is very important because if you seed incorrectly, you're going to affect the tournament significantly. And if you have only a few playing areas, it takes time. The best use for simulation is probably at the end of a tournament or a season as a playoff format. So let's try some from the internet. So in terms of, you could do this all by hand, but the easier way is to just go to the website. There's a password on the beginning of the book that you can go to, Human Kinetic Publishers ancillaries for this book, and you can download all these games. So there's schedules for single elimination advantage, and there's schedules for single elimination equitable. So you can pick which folder that you want. So let's pick one from single elimination equitable or advantage. We'll go to advantage, and then you'll have this list of games. So this is a single elimination with three entries, and it's advantage, and it's at 1 location. Single elimination 4 entries, advantage, 1 location. Single elimination 4 entries, advantage, 2 locations. So if you had 2 locations, it would work. Let's pick 8 entries, advantage, and 4 locations as the one that we're going to take a look at. So if we go to single elimination advantage, 4 locations. There we go. it opens up in Word. It will ask you for the competition name, the date, names of the teams, the locations, the dates, and the times. So let's just do that for a moment. So tournament, the date, let's just say today, seed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and just simply tabbing through location AAA, BBB, CCC, BBB, today at 1, tomorrow at 1 as well. Well, let's make it 2 so we can just see the difference. And let's go for Saturday at 3 for the finals and we tab. And then what you'll see on the following, it'll automatically populate the schedule so that your tournament name, the date, we'll have team 1 playing 8, 5 playing 4, 3 playing 6, 7 playing 2. And because it's 4 playing areas, let's scroll it up a little. Today, we'll have all 4 games because there's 4 playing areas. Game number 1, game number 2, game number 3, game number 4. Doesn't really matter the game numbering for if all playing at the same time, but it would matter if they were played on only 2 courts or 1 court. So which courts are they playing on? The best court is for team 4 and 5. Second best is for 3 and 6. Third best is for 1 and 8, and fourth best for 7 and 2. You kind of say, well, theoretically the way we're going, this should actually be the third, but it's pretty close, and we're going to give them the best seed to the best playing area in this level. In this level, they're going to get the second best. So they've had a poor field and a good field, they've had a good field and a poorer field, and then they would play in the championships here. Once the tournament gets going, you just simply need to type in the names of the winners. So if this was team number 1, you can just put it in as the tournament goes and update it. And you can just simply insert these into the gray spaces. So rather than figuring it all out, just purchase the book, and you'll understand how it works, and that's all explained in the book as well. And once you download the schedules, it's very simple to do. And even in this case, if one team were to phone you because of a snowstorm or something, they couldn't come, then we just say, whoops, just the day before, we could just go back to single elimination, 7 entries. We wouldn't need 4 locations anymore, so it'll be 3 locations, and we could insert the names here. The top seed would be here, and they would get a bye. So it's very easy to make adjustments on the fly if that is necessary. So hopefully that's helpful in helping you understand single elimination. Single elimination is the sort of simplest tournament, but there are some complexities to it in terms of assigning locations, buys, seeding, and there's other factors to consider. And take a look at the other videos for understanding the other programs. Thank you.